This is Marketing Jam, a show featuring the brightest minds in marketing. Marketing Jam is brought to you by Cyber Impact, the email marketing platform made specifically for Canadian small businesses. Go to cyberimpact.com/jelly, create a free account, and start sending CASL-compliant promotional emails in just a few clicks.
All right, welcome to the next edition of Marketing Jam. I am so excited to be here with Chris, the co-founder and CMO of Bananatag, and we're going to get into it. We're not just talking about bananas today, but we're going to talk about the importance of internal communications and what's the point of it and why should we care. So, Chris, before we jump into what you do, why don't you tell us a bit of your origin story? How did you end up in the world of Bananatag and co-founding this organization?
Yeah, so I'd actually been traveling for a year with my wife, and I came back and my brother and my brother-in-law, who is my brother's friend, they had started this idea for seeing what happens after you send an email, how people are responding to it. Yeah. And so we hadn't launched anything yet. It was implemented at my dad's business, and it seemed great. So the idea was like, okay, let's pay our rent with this. And they asked me to join with, I guess, my marketing video type skills that I was doing at the time. Yeah. And from there, we've gone from the three of us working in our home office to now like 75 people or so spread between Kelowna and Vancouver. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I send an email from, like, say, Cyber Impact, right? Send a big email blast. I love the fact that, and again, somewhat addictive, being able to see how many people opened it, what links they clicked on. It's really exciting. So that's how you started, was the whole, like, not just email blast data, but single emails.
It was single email. So it was, obviously MailChimp was around, but there weren't many services. We had plugins for Gmail and Outlook that would let you know, if I send an email to you, did you open it? Did you click on a link? When should I follow up? Are you even interested in what I'm telling you about? So maybe for prospecting or job hunters, we're using that sort of thing. So it started as like kind of a one-to-one tool.
Because prior to that, the only way to find that out is if you did a big e-blast through Cyber Impact, one of those email tools.
Yeah, exactly.
But so what MailTrack.io is doing now, you guys started there.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And there's several companies that were doing that, and we really early on, still working out of our home offices, got into Mashable. Called Bananatag, at the time.
Why Bananatag?
Yeah, so there was, MailTrack wasn't around yet, I don't think. There were some like very like early tools doing this that were called like Spy This and Initech that, and people were a little concerned about that technology and like, oh, is this too invasive? And we thought, okay, we need to make this as fun and friendly as possible, and so
because it is a bit creepy.
It is. That was the feedback.
Because I use MailTrack now, and I know when people open my emails, what they clicked on, even what device they were on when they opened it.
Exactly. Yeah. So people, the tag part was like what we were adding to the email to be able to track it, and then we were just going through like animals and fruit names because we thought people thought those things were fun and friendly, and no one took banana really. No. So that was ours for the taking.
So tell me, how did it evolve to what Bananatag is today? Because you're not doing just tracking for sales and
exactly. So we had a pretty significant pivot like 4 years ago. We saw a huge spike in our server traffic, and we saw what's going on here. And we noticed that there was like some large organizations not sending just to one person. They were using Bananatag to send out a blast to 10,000 people. And so we talked to them and we said, what are you, like, you're abusing our service, go use MailChimp is actually what we told them to do. Because that's what it's for. And they said, oh, well, what we're doing is employee communications, and we're sending internally, and we can only send through Outlook or Gmail. We have no data on how people internally are interacting with our messages. And so, as a marketer, like, can you imagine sending marketing emails to your audience and one, not being able to design them, and two, not being able to understand what content people are engaged with. And this is a problem for companies of 1,000 employees up to 200,000 employees. They're sending more and more email. They have no idea of the effectiveness of it. And so we this problem just came to us, and it was one that we would have never have thought of, but a pain everyone was experiencing. So since that point, that's what really accelerated the company's growth, and we've done a almost complete shift to employee communications.
And your argument of use MailChimp or an email tool, why did they say no to that?
They're they're not able to export their employee lists to an external service. There's like security and privacy concerns with that.
Especially if that server's in the U.S.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And you don't want you don't want your employees to be unsubscribing from your email, which is a requirement of almost any email marketing tool. And then there's also problems with some of the data being displayed correctly when it comes from outside the organization. So Outlook and Gmail were the primary ways that they had to be sending those messages, and we were the only solution that could give them the data and the design capabilities they were looking for there.
Wow. And when you say Gmail, it's also like the G Suite, right? Like,
Exactly, the G Suite, so companies that are on Google Apps or whatever, and there's some really large companies using that as well.
And so 4 years ago, when you discovered this pain with that first call, and then you saw it a few more times.
We actually had a few, there was a few large companies already using the tool for that purpose, just found us and they started using it. So there was already 2 or 3 that were doing that,
And when that happened, did you just change your marketing communication? Did you change your website? Did you change your pricing? Or
it's been this slow process over time where we weren't sure this was going to be as big as it was, and it's just shifted, and we've kept hiring and growing sales and marketing and engineering just to support this product. So this website still has the 2 offerings, but
which is tracking for sales.
Sales, prospecting, one-to-one emails, and then employee communications. But over the next 6 months, even, you're going to see that almost shift completely.
Do you think you'll get rid of those sales processing side of things?
There's still a lot of people using the tool, so it's more of a branding question for us, and how do we not confuse people when they get to our site to say, hey, what does Bananatag do? Well, it does this or this. How do we direct people the right direction is kind of how we're thinking about it.
So even a small shop like us, we've got 17 employees, we want to send an email to them all being like, hey, don't forget about team building next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We could go into our email, which we use Cyber Impact. We could go in, send an email to them using Cyber Impact, or what you're saying is we could use your tool, and it tells us who opened it, if they clicked on it, and if they read it.
That's right. So we don't actually show what employees are,
which
specific are opening it, but
what percentage of them did.
Percentage, so people can get a better idea of if the content they're sending is engaging and how they should be communicating with people.
Okay, so you're saying it saves you from having to jump into another tool for internal communications.
It saves you that, but it's also practically impossible for them to use those other tools. They have
especially for government organizations, larger organizations.
Any company over 1,000 people, they're gonna be limited in this kind of way.
Okay, because of regulations and
because they can't take their employee data out of their systems into MailChimp, and those systems aren't really designed for sending internally to employees. We've also as you know, we kind of talk about, especially to marketers, we say, hey, we're MailChimp for internal communications, but that's that was our sort of starting point, and now we've added surveys and different capabilities beside email. So as the product develops, it's going to become more and more employee focused, and the comparison between us and a external email marketing tool is going to become less and less obvious.
Interesting. And then a SurveyMonkey also, which offers.
So that's an integration opportunity for us as well. For us, the types of surveys that we put in are like pulse surveys, we call them. So one answer: how would you rate the last town hall? Or
how's the temperature in the office?
How's the temperature in the office? Is this content helpful? Yes or no? And so it really helps. The main mission of the internal communications is to their big focus is employee engagement. How do we get people engaged with the company and what it's doing? How do we make people understand the mission, the strategy, and also keep them informed about smaller things too, like the cafeteria, like whatever small issues come up as well. So, but there's to get an organization aligned, that's their big challenge, and without metrics or any idea of how their communications are being received, that's really difficult for them to do.
So question, you've been around for how many years now?
So we launched in 2012, our first sales tool, August, so seven years or so. Yeah,
in all the years, now that you're kind of rising to the surface, people are seeing you and hearing you, you got a lot of staff. Has SurveyMonkey or MailChimp reached out in any reference of eating you because you're a banana?
That's a good It's a good question. They haven't yet.
Okay.
We actually have another competitor in our space.
Yeah.
Called Contact Monkey.
Really?
Yeah, who's trying to play off the banana theme as well. So.
Okay. But have you met anyone from SurveyMonkey or MailChimp?
No, we haven't. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting encounter.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a CMO, I need to know: are you an iOS or an Android guy?
Android.
Okay, Android.
Yeah.
And what are the apps that you can't live without for both work-wise and personal-wise?
So I'd say like 70% of my time is Slack. That's that's the beat of the company. That's what's going on.
Wow, okay.
When I go back and check, there's going to be a million channels to catch up on what's happening there. So staying on top of that is the primary one. I'm on Twitter from time to time. But I use that a lot for like finding interesting content. But I've shifted some of that to Feedly, which is like my personal like newspaper basically that I set up with my different sections or categories. Can set up Google alerts for specific topics and things, and those are the primary ones. And
those three.
Yeah.
Gmail? Are you a Gmail user?
Gmail, yeah, we use Gmail.
You guys are Google Apps company?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you have Outlook as well, or do you stick to?
So that's the interesting, because 90% of our customers are using Outlook. So for us to understand that environment is really important. And so we are like Google Apps, Gmail based, but most of us also have Microsoft licenses, and we're familiar with that suite as well. And we need to learn more about SharePoint, because all our customers are using SharePoint, and that's where a lot of their content sits. So, yeah.
No, that's really cool. And then now even Microsoft has its own Slack type thing.
Exactly. So Teams is a really interesting development, and with them and Slack going at it. We have to be familiar with both and how they work. Yeah.
We use Microsoft's Skype program for our show for our distant interviews. So
You guys are in the Microsoft suite here? Yeah.
We are not. We're in the G world, G Suite. But then we found Skype was the best for recording these shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Why is that?
It has its own built-in recorder.
Yeah.
People are familiar with Skype, and then the way that it jumps between the cameras is really great for editing purposes, and both people get to see it. Whereas Zoom and some other ones had some pieces that weren't as friendly to the editing process.
All right.
Yeah. And then as far as like books or magazines or even blogs that you subscribe to, or that you were like, man, you've got to read this as a CMO, what would you suggest?
So books, this one isn't specifically maybe CMO related, but the book I'm really excited about right now is Principles by Ray Dalio.
Okay.
He operated a hedge fund. He has a really interesting story, but this last two sections of the book are his life and work principles. And what's interesting about it, and could be applied to marketing or to business, is just thinking about what are the principles of your marketing team? How do you operate? And maybe it's a good idea to start writing those down so that when common questions come up, like we always have a question. We produce a lot of content. That's a big focus for us, is our content marketing. Do we lead gate this content or not? Is this, or is it more important this content gets shared more easily? We have this conversation every month or so. Well, let's just come up with a principle. This is what we do, and then we follow it. Then when someone joins the team, they know how we operate.
What did you decide?
It's
half.
It's if it's like an infographic or something that's primary purpose is sharing. Then we want if it's something that could be more viral, then let's not lead gate it. But if it's not, then we'll use the lead gate to capture. It's kind of how we
sense. Any podcasts that you're following?
Not marketing related again, but I love hardcore history. Whenever I go visit the family in Kelowna, that's the one I listen to. And I also sometimes listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and recently, like his interview, I think with Seth Godin was really interesting, where he talked about like minimal viable audience and stuff like that. Yeah,
really cool. Now, how did you pick Kelowna of all places to expand outside of Vancouver?
Us, the three of us founders, Isaac, Corey, and myself, we're all from Kelowna originally, and it was just where we were living at the time, and that's kind of how the company grew.
So
was
started
all the founders.
In Kelowna?
Isaac was in Vancouver at the time. I moved to Vancouver halfway through, so it just kind of grew where we were, basically, and also related to like the focus or skill set that we were in. So our sales team is now all in Kelowna, along with support, and then in Vancouver we have our engineering, product, and marketing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Kelowna is also home to Fresh Grade.
That's right.
Which is I guess what would you call it? The new season for Club Penguin.
I guess so. Yeah. It's a lot of the people
Lane
from there.
Merrifield's new
that's
project.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, we run into them every once in a while and hear how that's going. Yeah, it's cool.
Really
yeah.
cool. And as far as being a CMO, have you ever dealt with B2B influencers? Because I know there's a Fire Festival documentary came out, and it's all about like the problems with influencers, but they always talk about B2C influencers, right? Like, these models or these like homemakers or these mommy bloggers that are influencers. But have you ever met someone who's like promoting B2B influencers? Like, hey, you could hire me and I'll promote your B2B product.
Yeah. I can't really think of any specifically. I guess it's
an opportunity though. I'm surprised no one's done that yet.
I would say like maybe the influencers, some of the influences in our space would be some of the consultants and people that are in there and working with different companies. They tend to have a bit of a reach that sometimes we try to leverage, but it's interesting.
Because I've heard of like there's like affiliate programs like, hey, give me a code and I'll give me a kickback every time someone uses it. But like the influencer idea of like hire me and I'll promote it, I've not seen that developed yet because there's a lot of influencer agencies for B2C. But no one's come at you, right? Without I have a B2B.
No. That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that one. And for you, so where are you seeing marketing working? Like what are you like, man, this has been the best for us as far as like marketing here or sponsoring this or what are the trends you're seeing for your brand?
I think for us, I don't know if we look at trends exactly. Like we follow. Our whole idea is similar to what our customers are trying to do with their employees. We're trying to engage our audience. We're trying to do that. So we'll look at what's fun or what's interesting, and people will go explore those different tactics. We'll play with chatbots. We'll play with whatever. But it's not because it's a trend that we have to get onto, but more like, oh, this is an interesting thing we saw someone do or someone has. For us. The real focus, I think, is kind of on what's going to be true for a long time. What's going to be true? I think Jeff Bezos has been talking about this idea too. That's like, what is going to be true 10 years from now or 5 years from now? And the thing that we've really been thinking around those terms is you brought up B2B. We have this idea of H to H, so human to human. And it came from. I think it was HubSpot or Drift or somebody was saying, well, we shouldn't be B2B, we should be B to H because we're serving humans. And we're like, oh, why stop there? Why not H to H? And it was just a silly joke at the time. But the more it kind of stuck around, and we're like, oh yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to make connections, like not just with our business and our end user customers, not their company. It's connections between our employees and our customers, and those ones are like incredibly powerful and lasting, and people are meeting, they have so many different interactions with different members of the team, and it creates this really strong connection between them, and they feed off each other because a customer, they say, oh, I've met 4 people from Bananatag, and they're all awesome for different reasons.
And new brand acquisition, if they go to another company, they're going to sing your praises.
And we didn't realize that this was we thought, oh, we're selling to this organization. Well, a lot of times our product follows the communicator. It follows,
and they move around.
They move around a lot, way more than we expected. And so, I think that has been like we've been thinking of a bunch of applications for that. So even on our website, like again, we're employee focused as a product. We're about serving their employees. We have to do that internally, like in our company as well. But we also want to, on our website right now, you don't see a lot of our employees. You don't see a lot of that. So how can we create that connection even more? So in our recent video that we did. We brought, we used to do a bunch of animated videos, but we brought employees into it. Let's bring employees in. Let's find places to connect. And I haven't like solved this one yet, but I think about social media as well as like, how is Bananatag talk as a brand and interact? Like, they have these like communications chats, and we go in there as a brand, and who are they? Do they want to talk to the brand, or do they want to talk to just some more people from Bananatag?
That's cool. TELUS is known, and other brands do this as well, but TELUS is really known for their loyalty phone number, right? So if you mention I'm going to look at Rogers or Bell, TELUS is like, call the special number. And they always have like a budget to say, hey, if you stay, we'll be able to provide these services for you, because they've done the math where it's cheaper to retain someone, or not, they know the number it costs to retain someone versus finding a new client. So is that similar? Similar idea. And we think about that. Getting new people is hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. Because you're introducing the concept, then you're introducing your product, pricing,
they have
contract.
to choose. Exactly.
But if they come in and say, hey, I know this product, I know them, and they just bring you with them, you have an internal advocate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as like what that exactly looks like specifically, you're still wrestling with that.
It still is concept, but it's just more, let's get any opportunity that we have to create more interaction with people from our company and our customers. Like that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
What we do a bunch of events, or we're starting to this year in major American cities.
Awesome.
There's like free half-day educational events, and at first we were thinking about, let's get like all these expert speakers in to talk to our audience, and now we've almost, I think, over half the people are Bananatag people speaking at these conferences.
So great.
And it again just creates like, we have the experts there, or that talk, but then we also have like, it's I don't know if it's intimate is the word, but they get this, here's what the Bananatag people think, and they get to meet
really cool.
more and more of us.
I love how we're living in such a digital age with Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads, but yet these offline strategies,
exactly,
and the human-to-human strategies seems to be the ones that you're saying are working, or where you're putting your energy at least.
I think it's also it is because it is unique, right? We're like, everything is more and more digital, and as marketers, we're automate this, automate that, and we're creating these like beautiful like drips and
LinkedIn funnels and white paper
like,
here.
Don't touch it. And we did play with chatbots, but it's the same idea. Like, let's not touch it. Let's let this take care of itself. So when you make that human connection now, it's even that much more powerful because it's unexpected.
It's really cool. And what is something that you're following? Like, who's a brand maybe you're following, or someone that you're like, man, that's a cool trend to watch out for, or a brand to watch this next while?
I think we use them also. Drift is a really, really interesting brand. What they've done, and I think their founder David Cancel even talks about how their brand is their differentiator. That's what they're building. That's what they're protecting. You can copy features, you can copy a lot of different pieces, but that brand has to be really strong, and they're doing a really good job of that. We follow their content marketing. They do some similar interviews, like Coffee with a CMO type style, and
cool.
So those are really neat. Historically, HubSpot, we've really like respected like their whole approach. They taught us a lot as marketers, their content, and we get ideas from them like still today. And a personal brand that I like, maybe because it's just space related. SpaceX is I don't, just what the excitement they've caused with what they're doing and how they present themselves. Like, I don't know if we've seen that kind of interest in space, and they made that possible. So I think that's cool too.
Give me like internal communications. Why should we care?
Yeah.
Like whether you have data or stats or just get an anecdotal story, like why should any of our listeners and viewers care that internal communication should be a priority?
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about Bananatag. We're 75 people.
Yeah.
Our
two offices,
75 people. So we do have some of the challenges that larger companies have, but we're tiny. We're small. We're 75 people. Our customers are 200,000 employees. Yeah. And for us, it's a challenge. We're having this right now at 60 people. We started to experience like, we need alignment. We need people. People are asking, what are we doing? What direction are we heading? And we have, we do know what we're doing. We do have but it's maybe not communicated as well as it could be. And so the focus for us as a company right now is very similar to what we're trying to solve for our customers. We're trying to be able to say, hey, this is the goal. This is our strategy. These are the values. These are the behaviors. This is how you're going to get there. And that's going to take the weight off of us as leaders to always have to say, hey, no, do this or do that and correct. We want to be able to point, hey, we're going here and this is how we want to get there. And that's all about communication. And so if you think about that, if you think that we're having that problem at 75 people, imagine 1,000 or 10,000. How do you get that many people doing the same thing without policies and everything else? And that, I think that's the really powerful thing that lines up with what we're doing too.
And you're saying email and monitored email is a really good tool to help that internal communications.
That's one of their primary channels and it's specifically their employee newsletter is a place where a lot of that information comes through, where they get messages from leadership or the big things happening in the company to create that alignment.
It's really cool. What do you see with the trend of people putting videos in those emails?
Yeah. So it's really cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in Outlook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But Gmail does?
Gmail it does, and I think
Okay.
some of the newer versions of Outlook, it may. I think in Office 365 might be working, but yeah, that's the one.
But you could
challenge there.
screenshot the YouTube.
So, and that's what we do. So
and
we
out-
offer
click and
exactly,
goes- yeah.
and it gets much. But even though it's just a link, it
Yeah.
gets a much higher
Yeah.
click-through rate because it just here's the video. It clicks to an external site, but you still get more people there.
Yeah. And any advice as far as people that are attempting to do internal communications themselves, maybe not using Bananatag, but maybe some
Yeah.
lessons learned from
Yeah.
deep diving into internal comms.
I think one of the things is just the way we communicate with employees. Obviously we want to be as transparent and as possible, but just sometimes internal communicators or when we communicate with employees, we're very informational. We're just like, oh, here's this information, but we're not explaining like why you should care, and we're not talking to people in a conversational sort of way. That's like that people will relate to, get attached to, want to read. It's just like, oh, here's the information, and it. You're not.
Well, here's the bullet points.
Here's the bullet points.
Yeah.
Here's the information. It's not, as a marketer, you're not giving people bullet points.
No.
You're trying to tell them, hey, go here.
Yeah.
You're here. Like this is what we have to
There's
show
the
you.
vision.
And you need to do the same thing internally.
Cool. And have a nice animated GIF.
Exactly. Yeah, that's important too. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Chris, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I'm inspired. I'm challenged. Those of you out there that are internal communicators, and I know there's a lot of you out there, Bananatag, check it out. Vancouver made. Do you charge in US or Canadian?
We charge our list price is US, but yeah, I think we'll take Canadian.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone who joined us today, and we'll see you next time on Marketing Jam.